Hi everyone, my name is Dennis and I'm a senior computer science student at the University of Michigan, and today I will be showing you how to debug a program using VSCode. This guide is intended for the beginner programmer who wants to maybe move away from using simple print statements and instead use a visual debugger where they can actually step through their code line by line and see exactly what's going on. First, you'll want to make sure you have an executable that you can debug. Since we're using C++, we're going to want to compile our code, and we're going to want to add this -g flag, which means to compile it in debug mode. Now we want to open up our project folder within VS Code. We can see on the left-hand side that we can choose this debug option, and then we need to add a configuration for our specific project that we want to debug. We'll use the suggested C++ GDB debugging environment. Here we specify the different options for debugging. For something very basic, we can just change the program name to the name of the program that we wish to debug. In this case, it is count216.out. Now let's save, and we can go to the file that we intend to debug. Now we can add what's called a breakpoint to any point in the program where we want it to pause so that we can examine what the variable values at that location is. And furthermore, we can step line by line from the point where we stopped. So if we're starting from the beginning, let's add a breakpoint to line 7. Now let's begin debugging by pressing this green debug button. You can see that the program stops at your first breakpoint, and you can see the value of your local variables. Here its num is 0. Now the first important function is step over, which moves to the next line in your current file. So we can see here we're moving line by line, and the output of the program is put in the terminal of VS Code. Now if we continue to step through, we can see the value of num change as we call these add1 functions. Now let's say we want to inspect what's going on in add1. Let's go ahead and click step into, which steps into the function that is on the current line. So in our case, we'll go to add1. Now we can call step over to step through this add1 function and watch num change. Now I don't really want to step through all of these different num changes, so let's go ahead and step out to where we came from. The final two commands are restart and stop for restarting and stopping your program. Now let's try debugging this program. This program intends to count to 16 by adding 1 6 times and then adding 2 5 times, which adds up to 16. Now let's remove this breakpoint and restart, and you can see that we just finished running the entire program because there's no breakpoints. Now num ends at 10. That isn't right. Let's try to figure out why. I wonder if my add1 function is working. So let's add a breakpoint to the first line where all the add1 functions have completed. Let's go ahead and start my debugging, and you can see we stop right here. Now num is 6, and we called add1 6 times, so that makes sense. Doesn't seem like there's anything wrong. Now let's step through and see how add2 changes it. It goes to 8, makes sense, 10. Okay, look at that, it's 10 again. So something's wrong with my add2 function. Let's try stepping in. Whoa, who did that? Clearly this is not right because we're only adding 2 when num is not equal to 10, whereas we want to add it every time. So let's try fixing this bug by removing that and saying return num plus 2. Now let's save my file and see if this fixed the problem. We'll have to recompile our executable so that the debugger will run on the updated executable. After we've recompiled it, we can go ahead and disable this breakpoint down here, and that way we can run our new program to the end and see what happens. Let's go ahead and press play. We also could have just pressed restart, and we see that num ends as 16. Looks like we found our bug. That's great. I hope this tutorial has been helpful to you. Learning to use a debugger like this will be really helpful for debugging your programs. Until next time, bye-bye.